Good evening, everyone, or afternoon or morning, wherever you may be. Um, yeah, I wasn't on last week, but I'm back. Just took a break. Nice to see all of you here already. Urban Sombreros here. Echo, Echo. Ants is here. Elias Jones. Pablo Pina. Urban Sombrero, I would say both, but I would say favor a little bit silver at the moment because it's been, yeah, it's actually outperforming, which is a good sign. No, nice to see you. Peter Vujas, Stevie Mondo. Yeah, Billy is here. He was on the floor earlier. I put him on the sofa. Manic Miner. Mark C. Gaming Bear. Paul Harlock. Iron Tom. DMC. Yeah, quite a few of you. Bubba Brother, Earth is flat and silver is money. Oh, wow, that's a good one. James Richter, Stephen Bennett, sorry. Gold Day, everyone, Wide Winger. Azahi says hi. Hi, SC. Hi, Chris Conman, nice to see you here. Alain Roy from Montreal. Shannon Wright. So yeah, the title today for the live stream is Government in a Panic About What's Happening to the Pound. That's from a senior Tory. For those of you who don't know, who are not in the UK, senior Tory means basically a senior Conservative Party member, which is the party that runs the UK government. So I'm not surprised. If you've been following me for a while, I've been warning about a currency crisis, and usually a lot of times they happen in the autumn equinox or the fall equinox, and we're right around there. We know next week is the fall equinox or autumn equinox, and the pound has reached, yeah, I think it was 37 or 38-year low. So I think it's the lowest level it hit since 1985. So the next target would be 105. What we could see if the markets lose confidence is that it could accelerate. It's been falling orderly, but we could see a massive spike lower. And that's what we have to look at. Lord Humongous, thank you for your super chat. I made good profit last week on the big miners. Well, that's good, Lord Humongous. Nice to hear that, and thank you for your generosity. Toon Tuber, hi Toon Tuber. Bubba Brother says I need to go to bed. We'll listen a few more minutes. Well, and you can also listen to it afterwards tomorrow. It will be recorded, of course. High utility prices showed up in Europe. Yes, they will probably not be as high as we expected because governments are borrowing a lot, hundreds of billions to keep those prices low. But it's going to squeeze into other sectors of the economy. So, yeah, that's the problem. They're going to keep people, hopefully, you know, they had a problem until recently, and the UK government is going to spend 150 billion to keep the average utility prices a year at £2,500. And that's up from around 1,300 last year. So they've doubled, but it was supposed to go to 6,000 on average per year. But eventually we're going to have to pay for that with more inflation, which basically is a weaker currency. Toon Tuber, Mario, what happens to the pound if, well, the thing is, the dollar index, Toon Tuber, is just an index composed mainly of the euro, Japanese yen, the pound, and the Canadian dollar and the Swiss franc. So it's just a reflection of the weakness of other currencies. So if the pound drops sharply, and let's say the euro actually goes up against the dollar, you might not see a huge move in the dollar index. It's the euro that's the biggest part, really. It's almost 2/3 of the dollar index. Yeah, Nitro Burp says, Rafi said silver is being sucked up by the banks. Well, it is by the banks and the smart money, the very wealthy. And I think he said also it's been sucked up by the by people like us, you know, the Wall Street silver movement. I haven't stopped stacking. Well, I haven't stopped stacking silver since 2003. And I think even though it's still a small movement, it's still got a long way to go. But a lot of people are waking up to the fact that silver is money and has been for thousands of years. Joker Alpha, hi, nice to see you. Belly Dance Arabia, hi, Belly Dance. Tim Gibson is here. Ant H says, hi, Mario, why doesn't the Fed buy gold with its printed money? Well, because they're there to help the government and the banks. And how do they do that? Well, they buy government bonds or they buy mortgage-backed securities. Buying gold is like, yeah, they could buy gold, but the Fed is supposed to be, you know, the Federal Reserve note or the fiat dollar is supposed to be better than gold. So by buying gold, if they came out and said, "Oh, we're going to start buying gold," that would be a massive vote of no confidence in the dollar. So that's why they can't dare to say anything about gold. A bit like the UK, even though we don't have much gold, we never buy any. The last time we did anything to the gold was Gordon Brown selling half of the country's gold. So we got 3 minutes until the top of the hour, and then we'll look at this sterling crisis. Yeah, I made a video, I think back in August, talking about the fact that usually, you know, you go back to 1992, which is when I arrived in England. I arrived here beginning of September. 3 weeks later, towards the end of September, we had a massive ERM or sterling crisis. Sterling crashed versus the dollar versus the Deutschmark. That was when George Soros made his big bet and made $1 billion apparently. Picky Ricky says, I can see coin collecting is addictive. The other thing as well about having physical gold and silver is that it's a vote of no confidence. It's also a way of protesting against your government. If you're not happy with the way they're spending your taxes or what they're doing in foreign policy, domestic spending, you take that out of the banking system. And you do that by, exchanging your funds in the bank for real money outside the banking system. Good morning, Christine Massot. I hope I pronounced that correctly, Massot. Lord Humongous said the Queen's Beast Perth coins will increase in value. Yeah, I think there's some coins that have the Queen's head on it that were minted for 2023. I think those are going to be very valuable. I looked online and there's none for sale because, of course, she died in 2022, and they're going to be coins for 2023 of their head. It's a little bit like I don't think they'll be as valuable as the 1933 double eagle, but it's interesting if you can get a hold of them, I would say. That's on a numismatic basis. Ruby says, while everyone's focused on silver, I'll be looking to buy gold. Well, I think both are going to do very well in the next few years, but I actually think silver will outperform, but it doesn't mean to say that personally, I won't be buying both if I can. Hold on a second. Billy wants to come down. Hold on. Say hello to everyone. Billy wants to come down. He's going to say hello. Say hello, Billy. There you go. Billy's going to be groomed tomorrow. His mobile groomer is coming tomorrow afternoon. He needs a haircut, don't you, boy? Let's get down now. There you go. Tony, you guys like palladium? Well, palladium is a precious metals, but I would say it's not really a monetary metal. Yeah, but I think anything that's a hard asset will do well in the next decade because of inflation. I was just listening to, I'll show you guys. He doesn't make too many videos, but when he does, they're good. It's the Wolf Street Report. I just listened to it. It just came out today. And this is, he's talking about how prices now, commodity prices, a lot of those things have come off, but he's talking about how inflation now is seeping through to the service sector, to things like insurance, things that haven't been affected by the supply chain. And I think he's right. And he says, even though the Fed has been very hawkish in raising rates, they're still way behind the curve. And it's going to be very hard for them to control inflation. And he thinks they've lost control of it. And I agree with him. So I recommend that video. It's not very long. Orlando, thank you for your super chat. Charles III coat of arms has all the descriptions of Antichrist, and he was born in 1948. Yeah, I haven't looked at his coat of arms, so I can't comment on that. I have to look at it. Tuntuber, hi Mary, do you think Fed will rug pull at some point? Well, I'm not sure they're trying to pull the rug off from underneath the economy, but there could be an accident, the way they're raising rates, the way the economy and everything is leveraged with debt and credit. So they're going to meet this week, Wednesday and Thursday. They're expected to raise rates to, I think right now the target is 2.25 to 2.5. So they'll raise to 3 to 3.25. That's what's expected. And they're expected to raise rates even more, to be at 4% by the end of the year. But I think something is going to give. I don't know what it is, but they have a problem, not just the Fed, but the Bank of England, the ECB. You see, they thought that QE would never result into rising prices, consumer prices, or inflation, if you want to call it that. But eventually it did. And I think the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, was all the massive QE in 2020. And the fact that it didn't just go into financial assets, it went into the real economy. And it's going to be very tough to stop the psychological impact of all this inflation. Matt Bittner, I agree. You can't have capitalism without bankruptcy. You have to let things collapse. And unfortunately, for many years, it started with Japan. They didn't want to let the banks collapse after the Japanese bubble. of the 80s, real estate bubble and stock market bubble of the Nikkei. Nikkei went to almost 40,000, hasn't been back then since. The property of the Japanese, the Imperial Palace in Tokyo, the property there at one point was worth more than the whole of California, real estate of California. It was crazy. And it's been crazy ever since, well, 2001, after the dot-com bubble. They pumped the real estate bubble. Real estate bubble collapsed. They repumped it again, and they've pumped the everything bubble. And I think for the next decade or even more, financial assets are not going to do as well. And that's why I think commodities are going to do well, because investors are going to have to look for elsewhere. And commodities and precious metals are a very small part of the investable assets. So if you have even a small percentage moving over there, it's going to make a big difference. John, the accountant, I believe that there will be capital controls for UK citizens, EU citizens in the future. CBDC would make this possible. Especially if you are within the system, there would be. That's why I think it's important to be outside the system. But I'm not sure if CBDC will help any. You see, CBDC might be a good currency for payment, but it will still be a really bad place to store wealth. So I think that's why people still need to have gold and silver. Whether they're going to put capital controls, I think they're already doing it. I mean, with the rest of the world, look at all the sanctions they're putting in on Russia. There is capital controls to and from Russia now. And I think it's going to expand to the other BRICS and, Shanghai cooperation countries. I think that's the way forward, unfortunately. It's not going to be as free in terms of capital movements. So let's look at this story here about the UK. And this is quite significant, I think. I guess this is more, for my UK viewers, but it's going to happen everywhere. We're going to get a currency crisis. And the last one, of course, will be the dollar, and that will be versus precious metals, I think. So I'll scroll this up. It's from the Times, Sunday Times. I don't subscribe to it, but I got it on the archive.ph. They're going to have like a mini budget, I think, this week. The new government, growth or bust. So the big gamble here is that they're going to borrow 150 billion pounds to basically lower CPI by 5 or 6%, which is by capping energy prices. But I thought this was interesting here. But in the Treasury and parts of number 10, there is concern that the weakness of the pound could undermine the Prime Minister's gung-ho charge for growth, paid for with billions in new borrowing. One of Truss's most senior aides admitted to a friend last week that the collapse of the pound to 113 on Friday, the lowest since 1985, so 37 years, is causing grave concern since it is a bellwether of market confidence in the government's economic strategy and could send the cost of borrowing rising. So here's what I entitled my live stream. They're getting in a panic about what is happening to the pound, said senior Tory. So how do you protect yourself against a currency that collapses like that? And people might say it doesn't matter, a pound is still a pound, and it might be in the short term. But what will happen is that in 3 to 6 months, inflation or rising prices will be even worse, because a collapsing currency means that the currency becomes worth less. And the dollar, of course, is still the reserve currency. And everything seems to go up in price. The other thing that could be a big problem if we see a run on sterling, if we break, let's say we could break this week, we could break parity, we could see government yields as well start to rise even quicker. And they have risen already quite a lot in the last 12 months. And that could make things even worse because it means the government will have to borrow even more to pay investors, or they'll have to pay a lot more to borrow money. It's a vicious circle. So it is a big gamble. I think it's going to fail miserably. And how do if we look at other countries like Turkey, Lebanon, Argentina, when their currencies collapse, they don't just do well versus the dollar, but they do well versus gold as well. So, and that's why I still, well, yeah, it's still early days. I think stacking gold and silver is still the way forward to protect yourself. Some of your savings, it depends on the individual, how much they want to ensure their purchasing power. Matt Bittner, 8% 30-year mortgage rates are probably on the way. Oh yeah, I mean, right now the 30-year in the US is already at 6%. We could be very easily at 7% before the end of the year. Ama, we're gonna pay. Yeah, we're at, yeah, we're paying for it. Basically, what the government is doing, let's say the UK government or any other government, when they borrow so much money or currency to spend, it's like a company in the stock market doing a rights issue by issuing millions and millions of shares. That dilutes the ownership, and the share price goes down. So it's the same thing with the currency, and that's what's happening. And earlier I spoke about that video from Wolf Street, how inflation now, you've stopped prices a little bit in commodities going up, but now they're going up in services. And the US economy and the UK economy they're service economy. So it's not going to get any better. Black silver staff, could LBMA fudge the numbers? Well, yeah, the LBMA could definitely fudge the numbers. The LBMA, up until a few years ago, they used to publish their fixings on the same day, but now they do it delayed. So all these exchanges, they could fudge everything. Yeah, so that's why I don't deal in these exchanges, and that's why I think you need to be outside the system. Kala Smile, Kale, my love, can you believe this is our reality? Never thought this would happen in my lifetime. Yeah, I'm from I'm from 1964 as well. I thought it could happen because I grew up in Brazil and this was normal, this kind of inflation. But ever since the early 2000s, we've had this policy of manipulating interest rates lower, of a lot of deficit spending, a lot of financialization. And after 2008 and 2020, it got even worse. So yes, when you go down the road of inflation, and I think that's the big problem, people don't really know the definition of inflation. They think that we haven't had inflation up until the last 2 years, but we have had loads of inflation, which is the creation of all the money supply, all the deficit spending, and now it's coming home to roost. Echo, do you like the Royal Tudor beasts that they started to sell at the Royal Mints? I'm not a fan The arc, are those the 2 ounce coins? I think I have some. Let me see. Yeah, they're all right. I mean, they're different, but they're silver, so it doesn't really matter. The Britannias are nice. I bought some Britannias last week, actually the week before, and I received them last week, some silver Britannias. Asterisk says, I'm trying to protect myself, but I'm worried my efforts will be fruitless as a type 1 diabetic. How do I get insulin when the NHS fails? Yeah, well, I think the NHS has failed already, practically. That's one answer, one question I can't answer. I mean, that's one thing I'm not, yeah, but if you do have some savings and some real money, it might help. Because if we have a hyperinflationary collapse, which I think we could get in the next 12 months, let's say you need insulin, and the person that has that might not accept pounds, but they might accept 1 ounce of silver or a sovereign or so and so on. So that's all I can say. And maybe if you stock up on insulin, I don't know if you can keep that long term. That could be an idea. Matt Bittner, I think I have one or two. I don't think I have the rounds, but I have Sunshine Mint bars. Any kind of silver is good silver. Rob B, I reverse type 2 diabetes. So yeah, not type 1. So how did I do that? Well, it's my best video, really, in terms of views. I think it's got over 250,000 views. So you can search for it. But basically, you need to control your diet a bit more, because the older you get, your metabolism changes. And I'm not a doctor, I'm just giving you my opinion. Your metabolism changes. You have to cut down on a lot of things like sugars and carbohydrates and exercise more. So it's not easy. It takes, willpower. But type 1 diabetes is completely different from what I reversed. Bars or coins? I would say, if you just investing a small amount, do coins, but 1 ounce bars are nice as well. But also try the junk silver if you're in the US, like the pre-65 silver coins, because they might come in handy. In the UK, try the pre-47 and pre-1920 coinage, because they've got silver. Joker Alpha, we shouldn't be paying taxes when government gets their central banks to print. Oh, I know that, but unfortunately, if you're in the system, yeah, and so, and especially where they're spending the money these days, it feels, yeah, it doesn't feel right that you have to pay these taxes. Yeah, I echo. I mentioned that there are coins with 2023 with the Queen. They're going to probably be worth quite a bit. Oh, Lord Humongous says that my video helped him. I'm glad. And I wasn't trying to, I'm not a doctor. I was just giving my experience there and how it worked. At that time, when I was first diagnosed in 2015, the, I went to see the GP, the doctor, and I said, and he was really in a rush. He didn't want to talk about it. He said, "Oh, you have to take metformin, and that's it." So I started taking metformin, but then I watched a video by Dr. Sarah Holberg. I think it was one of those, I forgot what you call them, TED Talks. And she really helped me. And that was in late 2015. And the nurses, when I went back for my test in 2016 and 2017, they were really surprised. And they said, "What did you do?" And I told them. And now everyone is like, a lot of people are doing that, and they're not taking metformin. Chris Conman, thank you for your super chat. Will the BOE pivot before the US Fed? They do, and put more pressure on the US to follow suit. Well, I don't think the Bank of England drives policy for the Fed. It's the other way around. Unfortunately, I'm not sure the Bank of England can, because the idea is like that with the government is to put this 150 billion in spending to cap energy prices so that the CPI comes down. But I don't think the markets buy that, because even the mainstream is saying now, economists, well, that's also inflationary. You might bring down utility prices, but you're still inflating the system. So I think if the Bank of England, they are expected to raise rates this week. They were supposed to raise rates last week, but for some reason they canceled their meeting. They're going to raise by 50 basis points. But if they pivot soon, the pound will just completely melt down. So I don't think the Bank of England can pivot. Maybe a little, only if the Fed pivots, they can think about doing it, because we don't have the reserve currency anymore. And if we don't raise rates more, as I said, the title of this video, we could have a sterling, and I think we will have a sterling crisis, because the government has no intention of, getting the books in order. They're still spending. Swan Silver, what do you think the LBMA is open tomorrow, Mario? What do you think? No, I think it's not the LBMA that's open tomorrow. It's the LME, London Metals Exchange. It's a completely different exchange. Yeah, I saw that they're open, and some people were criticizing them for being open on the bank holiday and the funeral. So I don't know what I think, is it disrespectful? But the LME is an international exchange. So, but the LBMA is an over-the-counter market, which is basically trading amongst banks. But I think the LBMA will be, the banks here in the UK will be shut tomorrow. So the LBMA won't be open, but the LME looks like it will be open. Yeah, Lord Humongous, yeah, changing our diet. My wife and I went out for lunch today. And we went to a seafood restaurant, and I had a nice starter with salmon and prawns and avocado. That's very low carb. And then I had a bream fish. It was really nice. And there were some vegetables. I ate a little bit of the vegetables, but I ate the starter and fish, and that's good. That's I think what you have to try to avoid is a lot of rice, mashed potatoes, pizza, and things like that. Unless you've run a marathon or something, then you can eat a lot of carbs. Helen of Troy, happy Sunday to you as well. Do Americans have to pay a tax when purchasing from gold investments? No, there's no tax. It's just that the shipping might cost a little bit. But about precious metals, people, the reason why I have affiliation with gold investments and Glint, that people have asked me in the past, can you recommend us? And I've gotten, deals to get, with gold investments and Glint. Glint operates in the US. Gold Investors is more for the UK and Europe, but I recently interviewed Andy Scheckman. He's the president of Miles Franklin, and I've spoken to him a couple times in the last month in my channel, and I've published the interviews. And we're gonna be setting up an affiliation with Miles Franklin. So hopefully you'll be able to use my Monaco 64 code with Miles Franklin. I haven't set it up yet with Andy Scheckman, but yeah, hopefully that will be soon. Yeah, I think Gold Investments did a deal for the Queen's past death. They took 1% off gold's 2022 QE to gold sovereigns. I don't know if that's still applicable. You can try that, but they will ship anywhere, even to the US. But so you need to see whether it's you're better off. But I don't recommend buying silver from them, because in the UK you have to pay a VAT, and in the US you don't. But the gold might be cheaper to buy from Gold Investments. You just need to check how much it costs for shipping. And if you do use them, use my promo code Monaco 64. Yeah, Lily Robin says she's used Miles Franklin's before. I could use Billy Bullion for the Miles Franklin code. I'll tell that to Andy, but yeah, we can do that. Billy Bullion or Billy. Yeah, you do have, if you buy silver from abroad and you bring it into the UK, that you have to you're gonna pay the VAT, and you might even pay a duty, so it's not worth it. Yeah, Scoobyism. Hopefully, I'll get the sign the deal with Andy Scheckman soon, and whenever I get the promo code, I'll put it on. I'll let you guys know in the next video. Grandpa Barney, thank you for your super chat. I'm in Seattle and just want to say, love your videos and info. Thank you. Think the world is in deep crap. Yeah, I do as well, unfortunately, but I think we need to keep our heads on and just enjoy life and do our best. Help other people. Be generous to people if you can. If you've done well, I feel blessed to have this community, and the fact that my wife and I and my family are doing well. Yesterday I went to the supermarket to get something, the big Asda around here, and it was in the afternoon on a Saturday, and I don't know, around 6 in the evening, and I walked in, and there was this man. He had he was on the floor with his sleeping bag and a dog, and he didn't look like he was an alcoholic or in drugs. And I felt sorry for him. When I came back out, he was still there, and he had drawings. He was a really good artist. And some people, and I gave him some money, and yeah, I think we need to do that. if you are in the position, if you are doing okay, help others. I know we're paying a lot of taxes and there's a lot of inflation, but I think, yeah, we need to be, how can I say, generous to other people who are not as lucky as we are, or haven't had good breaks. Michael ought to marry. I felt about my fish, and you were telling me you were eating them. uh, Adrian Bielby, how long would you say before the UK has a currency collapse? Well, I think we're in the middle of one right now. Last year, the pound was at 140, and now it's at 113. And uh, I would say a collapse would be if we get down to like 85 cents before the end of the year. That would be and it's as good a time for it to happen right now. And I think if you've already been stacking, you're going to be fine in terms of purchasing power of your savings. What's going to be tough is that it's going to make everything more expensive. Just think of countries like Brazil and other, emerging market developing countries. They have a lot of problems with inflation and cost of living. It's because their currencies have always been very weak. So that's what it's going to mean. It's not the end of the world, but you don't want to have too many pounds. And if it does happen, they'll have to do something to stop that. And eventually it could come back up to like 120 even from 85. But in the meantime, it's going to be tough. Andrew Bevan, there is a lot of talk in the US about people holding silver and gold before being forced to seal back to the government. Could that happen in the UK? I guess I don't think the UK government is going to come after people's silver, but gold in the late 60s until 1979, there was a limit to how many sovereigns you could buy. I think it was 6 every year, but I'm not sure they came after people's gold and silver or after people's gold. So yeah, they might put a limit on how many sovereigns you can buy. So that's why right now, as there's no limit, I think it's a good time to accumulate it before it's too late. Richard Martin, aloha, nice to see you. Lord Humongous, thank you for your super chat. Aiden Porter, thank you as well for your super chat. Carlos Garcia, do you know at Rio de Janeiro summit, ex-president Hugo Chavez and from Venezuela brought out the plan for Petro Moneda for Latin America around 2009, mention what you, yeah, Petro Moneda, yeah. I mean, who was it? Hugo Chavez, yeah, yeah. We know what happened to him, don't we? Hugo Chavez. And the Bank of England as well has a lot of Venezuela's gold and they're not giving it to them. But I think, from what I'm reading over here, sorry, is it true? Comes down to life and luck plays a big role. Yeah, luck is, yeah, it is part of life, luck. But I think also if you're, the more you do and the harder you work and do things, the luckier you get. I think that's an old saying as well. Yeah, but so, it's also about being in the right place at the right time. Salad, do you think the New World Order is happening? Well, I think yes, a new order is happening in the other part of the world, not the West, but it's not necessarily the new world order that the West wants. So who knows? Um, yeah, I'm not sure whether the new world order is going to happen, and that's more to do with this great reset. But thanks again, Aiden Porter, for your super chat. But whatever happens, I think being self-reliant, self-sufficient, and creating value and having a tight-knit community, not just physically where you live, but also here online, like with you guys. I think that's important. And I don't think a new world order or like a one world government will ever work, because it has never worked. I think they're trying, but I think they'll fail because too many people are waking up to it. But what Russia, China, and the other global South countries are doing, I don't think it's like a new world order. I think it's different. Van Master Flash, in the old days, you could buy a house and support a family on a show salesman's salary. Yeah, I mean, up until the 60s or even early 70s, you could do that. And I don't think the globalists, the bankers like that, because there's a lot of talk. I think it was Aaron Russo who directed Trading Places, the movie. He had a friend called Lawrence Rockefeller. He became friends with the Rockefeller, and he told Aaron Russo that they're the ones that pushed women's liberation so that they could get more taxpayers, so that women would go to work as well. And I think all the government spending, the socialist policies, not just in the US, but here, and the push, that's what has driven this. And one of their goals as well is to have children stay in school most of the day, because they didn't want children being brought up by families. They wanted the state and the public schools. In the States, they call it public schools. In the UK, they call it state schools. So yeah, that's all part of the program. And I think the reason why you need also two people working now is because you have a lot of inflation and a lot of taxes too. Thank you, Belly Dance Arabia, for all the thumbs up. Salad, you're welcome. I try to answer as many questions as possible. Mike T, Mary, what is happening is straight out of the mandibles. Yeah, actually, yeah, I did recommend this, but I actually have to thank one of the viewers who recommended it to me. So it's a great book, The Mandibles. Unfortunately, it's becoming more and more like it, isn't it? So it's by, what's her name? I forgot now, but I highly recommend the book for those of you who haven't read it. You will find it if you just Google The Mandibles. How does the Abrahamic paradigm influence financial policy? Well, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think one of the big problems with our monetary system and financial system, and I think the Russians and the Chinese realized that after 08, is that it's not based on real value. And that's what inflation is. It's not based on honest weights and measures. And money is a commodity. It is. And if you detach currency from money, it's going to be a mess. And we've had since the 1973, when we went off gold in 71, and then 73, the currencies floated against each other. We've had a system basically. Can you imagine if the length of an inch changed every second? Can you imagine if you know weights changed every second? Can you imagine if a minute was longer? It would be a mess, and that's how our financial system is. And I think I'm not saying the Russians and the Chinese are angels, but that part of the world, they've realized, we want a more stable system based on real things. And the other thing that this system has done, because it's not attached to anything, it's only run by force, the US military force, is that now they're using it as a political weapon. They've been using it for the last 10 years with sanctions. So, and I think, I'm not taking sides. I'm just observing what's happening, and people are running de-dollarizing. And what that's going to mean is a lot higher prices for us in the West, because there's going to be a lot less demand for our currencies because they don't want to deal with us anymore, unfortunately. And I think that's a bad thing. Average house price in Hawaii, $834,000. I mean, that's huge. Here, I thought house prices were high here, but the average house price here is 270,000 pounds, which now isn't that much. It's only $300,000. So yeah, Argentina, they raised rates, uh, yeah, to 75%, but inflation is still at 100%. So it's like Wolf Richter was saying, the Fed is raising rates, but with inflation running almost at 10%, they're still inflating the system. And the other thing he mentioned, and it's not happening just in the US, uh, governments are still spending and they're deficit spending in the US, in the UK, in Europe. Governments are inflating to try to solve the cost of living crisis, which is totally upside down, of course. B. Walsh, yeah, I just had a trim. I don't have much hair left. I had a trim last week. Yeah, Lionel Shriver. It's a lady. She's an American author, but she's based in the UK. Lionel Shriver. How much how much silver is Billy worth? Well, I think Billy is priceless. So there you go. Getting married is the biggest scam of all. Well, I'm not too sure about that. I've been married for 29 years and I'm happy with that. Chances of a bank bail-in? Yeah, I mean, they're quite high. But what I think they're going to keep doing is inflating the system, keep bailing out the banks. They're already doing it. The Fed, New York Fed, is bailing out all the too big to fails, not just in the US, but also in Europe. So, but I'd still say that it's not a good thing to keep unneeded, if you've got extra funds in the bank. Yeah, just keep the necessary amount, I would say. Shave my head and grow a mustache. No, I'm not really into mustaches anyway. Will I ever go back to Brazil? Probably not. But you never say never. So I guess I could. My wife is originally from England. She has been to Brazil a few times and she likes it, but it's a big move. I mean, and sometimes, the grass is greener, so to speak. And so, Jason Warner, good afternoon, Jason. High street banks in the UK. Well, the only banks in the UK are high street banks. There's not many banks left. So some people I've been seeing for the last month, UK banks are sending letters to their customers saying, don't keep too much money with us and things like that, which is weird. So yeah, that's why I think there could be a problem coming. I think it's always good to have some cash at home, you know, just in case something were to happen, they switch off everything and you can't access your funds with your card or the online. So it's always good to have hard cash. I don't know who started the inheritance tax, Pablo, but there's no inheritance tax, let's say in Italy. I don't think there's who else was telling me that there's no inheritance tax. I forgot, but there is in the UK. Helena Troy says bank bail in tomorrow during the bank holiday. Well, it's interesting because all the world leaders of all the countries in the world are going to be in London tomorrow, except for Putin and the president of China and the president of Belarus. So it's interesting. You've never had so many leaders like that in one place. So anyway, freaking free candle special. How much ounce of silver can you buy a city block in Europe if you look to the past? I don't know, but from what I've read and heard of, back in the German hyperinflation, you could buy, you could buy like a small hotel in Berlin with a few ounces of gold. So maybe 50 or 100 ounces of silver could do a lot of damage if when the system collapses, the currency system. I don't know how well going cashless will work in the event of a natural disaster. That's right. That's why it's good to have silver, I think, and maybe even some cash. Pay your bills debt free with cash on hand. Yeah, I've been saying, the last 6 years since I started the channel, maybe it's a little longer, almost 7 now, that for me, the important thing is to have no debt. And and some people kept saying, oh, but interest rates are so low, and stuff. But now interest rates are going up. And I think a lot of people probably regret they took on so much debt. So yeah, the old saying of never a borrower or a lender be is a good thing in my opinion. And being a lender, of course, is having money in the bank, because in the UK and in the US and in Europe, uh, your money in the bank is actually an unsecured loan. Evola sunglasses, I think you did a stream recently, and the guest said Russia had no inheritance tax. Oh yeah, that was it. That was it. Sorry, yeah, I forgot. That was with Mike from IO Gray. Yeah, there's no inheritance tax in Russia either, and it's supposed to be a authoritarian dictatorship, and the highest income tax is there is 15%. T Chris 0123, if the home sales number are poor this week, would that cause stocks to tumble? Well, maybe, but not necessarily. I think what caused stocks to tumble last week were the earnings and the fact that FedEx pulled their guidance for next year. I think that was quite significant. That shows that the not just the world economy, but the U.S. economy is grinding to a halt. Birdie Bear, how safe are pension SIPs and cash and ISA with a big company? Yeah, I mean, I have a ISA with a stockbroker, IG.com. And yeah, it's risky. It's counterparty risk, and the way the central banks are raising rates and the way they're concerned about inflation and they're running behind it could cause an accident. So that's why I have stocks, but it's not a huge part of what I own. And I do legislate, taking into account that the stockbroker that I have my stocks with and my money with, they could go under, and it could take a very long time for me to get my money back, if ever. So that is a risk, counterparty risk. But at the same time, it's a risk I'm willing to take, though, because I think miners, gold, silver miners, commodity stocks are going to do very well in the future. Joker Alpha, it's a trap. Save fiat, but your purchasing power drops, or take on leverage to get your home with a high. Yeah. Super Seamster, do you listen to the Duran? Yeah, I actually listened to them today, because there's a lot of talk, in the West, mainstream media is saying that Russia's lost all support from China and Russia. No, Russia's lost all support from countries like China and India. But I don't think that's true. They had that summit in Uzbekistan this week. And if they didn't support Russia, they wouldn't be at that summit. I think the West is desperate. And a lot of what we unfortunately hear and read in the mainstream Western press is misinformation. So I do like the Duran. I do listen to them. So we got another 7 minutes to go. Lord Humongous, yeah, I like it. I got some dividends recently from, I think it was Barrick. I think Newmont dividend is going to be paid a little later. And I just reinvest, the dividends into other stocks or the same stock. Carlos Garcia, do you know Lyndon LaRouche with? Yeah, I think Lyndon LaRouche passed away. I agreed with a lot of the stuff he used to say, Lyndon LaRouche. Basically, he criticized the system that we have, the financialization. And yeah, but he was ignored, Lyndon LaRouche, by the mainstream, of course. Matt Bittner, when is Gonzalo Lira coming on as a guest? I haven't thought about inviting him, but I don't know. Yeah, I'll think about it. I'll see if, but I have some other guests coming up in the next few weeks. I like Gonzalo Lira, but yeah, I never thought of asking him to come on. He's more of a, yeah, economics is not really, I mean, he talks about it. And I think he used to write for Zero Hedge years ago. Adrian Porter, explain to people about the Jersey economy. If you don't know, okay, it's a great subject to enlighten people. Jersey. Do you mean Jersey, the island here in the part of in the UK, or New Jersey, the state? Uh, if so, I mean, I know that Jersey is like an offshore tax haven, but that's about it. Yeah, Super Seamster. I've heard of Harvey Schlanger, um, and yeah, I've listened to him before. Don't I agree with a lot of what he says, but I think he's more of a socialist. So I don't know. Carlos Garcia. Yeah, he Carlos Garcia says that Gonzalo Lira. Yeah, he doesn't believe in gold either. I've noticed that, and that's why one of the reasons that I agree with a lot of the other things he says, but economics wise, I'm not too convinced about what he says. The thing about silver is that I watched a video today. I think the YouTube channel is Silver Seekers or Silver Seeker, and this guy called all these precious metals dealers in the US, and he said, I have 10,000 silver eagles for sale. And all these, with the exception of one dealer, they offered to pay him at least $5 over spot. One of them offered to pay $9 over spot. So, the price that we see on Comex, and the bank price doesn't really reflect the real value of silver, in my opinion. Euro Endurorama, do you think nationalization in industries, mines, natural resources will pick up, spread across the world? It's possible. It's always possible when the economic environment is as bad as it is. But yeah, that's a risk. But maybe diversifying is the best way around it geographically. Uh, Gaddafi in Libya, super seamster. Yeah, Gaddafi. I mean, before NATO took out Gaddafi, was it 2011? I think Libya was the richest country in Africa. They had the highest income per capita of any African country. Look at it now. So there you go. Norbert, the Abidu AdBlue, the AdBlue crisis can hit the supply chain hard at any moment. The biggest factories are down for weeks now. AdBlue. What is it? AdBlue is a fluid which is automatically sprayed into cars' exhaust system to reduce. Oh, I hadn't heard of that. So that's interesting. AdBlue. You learn something every day. Gold is very good to pass down. Yeah, it's very private. That's the thing, in this day and age, you want as much privacy as you can get. Stephen Fleming says these Sunday live streams are pretty cool. Yeah, I've been doing them for quite a few years now. Yeah, I've missed 1 or 2 Sundays, but I try to make it every Sunday. Yeah, gold, no lawyers needed. That's right. So, yeah, it's time for me to go. I'm tired. Yeah, 10 o'clock here in London, and I gotta go to bed to get up early to do another video tomorrow morning for you guys. And thank you everyone for being here and for participating. Yes, and I wish you all a great rest of the weekend and also a great coming week. Take care.